This episode of Truth Table is brought to you by InterVarsity Press, whose vision is to catalyze redemption, restoration, and revival in our divided and broken world. Visit IVP's website at www.ivpress.com. Sisters, how y'all feel? Brothers, y'all all right? If this is your first time at Truth Table, welcome to the table. And if you've been sitting at the table with us all these years, we are so grateful that you have been listening to us through these years, and we are inviting you to partner with us and support our work at patreon.com/truthstable. Now pull up a chair and have a seat at the table with us. Hey y'all, welcome to Truth Table, Midwives of Culture for Grace and Truth. I'm Ekemini.
And I'm Christina.
This table is built by Black women and for Black women. So welcome to the table, C. How you doing, girl?
I am doing well today.
You're going to say you're delirious.
I am tired today. I am sleepy. You know you're sleepy when you're thinking about when you're going to sleep. You know you're tired when you're like, you start like projecting and fantasizing about when you take your nap. That's where I am.
It's a staple
right
of
now.
adulthood. Mm-hmm. So when you start calculating your hours. And I've been doing that since I was in my 20s. I've been at this thing for a long time.
You mean calculate your hours, how much
sleep
hours
you
think
sleep.
You might
yes,
get?
Yes, at night. I have to calculate my sleep. I'm like, okay. So you have to do a late night, it's like, it's tough. We had a late night last night.
Well, probably it was a late night for me. I think I get the sense that there are people.
Late though.
It was after 11. Yeah, but there apparently
it's late for us.
There are many community members.
We're in our 40s.
That don't.
That's late. That's late.
I think that apparently there are plenty of 40-somethings that are kicking it late at night.
All right, yeah.
They're out in the one woman that we met at the restaurant looked at me. I was like, I don't know what about me made her think that I had additional plans.
Oh, that was
yesterday
funny.
Evening, but
she was trying to ask you where the spots were at.
I was like, I'm going home.
First Lady Dr. Edmondson. We just came from intercessory prayer.
I was like, but I think you should ask around in this establishment and you will get what you need, ma'am.
That was
I'm
funny.
not trying to stop your party night, but I'm definitely
I was like, we just came
going
from
home.
Church. Right, from
She's like, where's the party after this? I was like, well, I don't know, but I'll be sleeping.
That was hilarious. You know what? That really is perfect because the topic on the table
that's right.
is who we really are. People's misperceptions, about us or projections, whatever, but like who we really are, how people read us, how they see us. Cause that is so funny to me that she asked you that.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not the right person.
She was like, hey, where the party at? I was like, what? I was like, this is so interesting.
It was strikingly odd. It was but you're right. But that's one, there's all kinds of things that are happening, right? In that moment and that happen, when we think that we know people that we don't know.
Yeah.
And I think when I think about 2023, there have been moments certainly like publicly and privately in entertainment world, in ministry world, where people have these moments where they go, I can't believe this. And then you realize you don't really know that person. Like we think that we know people, right? And the truth is we have limitations on how well we even know ourselves if we're operating in denial and avoidance and all these different things, right? And so I think it's a worthy topic on the table.
Absolutely.
Let me start off with you. So before
I'm in the hot seat.
Well, I mean, this is usually how it works.
This is how it goes. Let's go.
Let's go. So, we have a miniature public presence. I say miniature because, I know people who have huge, what I consider to be large
people
platforms.
That are way more public than
that's what I consider. But there are people that we do go places within our own circles of ministry and work and activism where people may know who we are or think, or have seen some presence online. And, but before we got into this particular work, I don't think that was as common, certainly for me. And I wonder how common that was for you.
What, for people to identify you? Or
yes.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Pre-truth table in that way. Mm-hmm. And so are there things that you miss about the pre-truth table Ekemini
making me
showing
laugh.
up at events.
I feel like we're celebrity level on people
not.
on People
We're
magazine.
not.
Do you feel like you missed that live
Can
before
you
you were
shop at the
famous?
Target? Yes, I
have
can.
had that experience. I don't know if I talked about it. I went to the beauty supply.
Oh, yeah, no,
And,
you
I
meet
told
people
you
all
about
kinds of places.
have I talked about this on Truth Table? Shout out to the beauty supply sisters. I was at the beauty supply, and I must have been probably talking to you. I'm sure
On the phone,
talking
yes.
on the phone, and somebody was like, "Ekemini," because when you go to the beauty supply, you're looking. I'm not at 10 at the beauty supply. I'm at 5. I'm at a 5. Okay?
I'm not dealing with your
I'm
numbers
at a
game.
5.
Carry
You know
on.
what I mean? 'Cause
That's a whole nother episode.
I'm going to go buy.
The
I was
rankings
literally
of beauty.
going to
but
go
ahead.
purchase some beads because I was about to get some braids. Okay, because I was going on vacation.
Old school.
And so I remember, and I was like, "Who's calling my name? Like, who knows me up in here?" 'Cause it was a different beauty supply. It's the first time I've been to this beauty supply because I love the beauty supply. Anyway, and she was like, "Ekemini."
They're not all created equal, but carry on.
Oh, they're not. They are not.
Carry
they
on,
are
though.
not. Shout out to Hair Buzz in Philly because that is one of my favorite beauty
Yeah,
supplies.
it's a sassy name, Hair Buzz. Go
It's
ahead.
great. Anyway, but that's not where I was. And so anyway, she's like, "Ekemini." I was like, "Oh, what's this?" And I've never met these sisters in my life, two women, 2 Black women, and they're like, "I listen to Truth Table. I listened to Truth Table when I was in college, and it was really helpful, informative. It was really
like it's that old, but yeah,
encouraging." And I was like, "My gosh," it was really encouraging and affirming moment. But it was like, whoa, wait, it's just a trip to know that somebody can pick up and identify you by your voice, because they were in a different aisle and I was in one. I don't know, like somehow when I was walking by at some point, they just heard my voice, and that's how they identified me, and then they saw me, right? So. Anyway, all that to say, that it is a little bit of a different life than what I had before. Do I miss a little bit of that? I think I miss a little bit of the anonymity. For me, it shows up, which I've said this before, it shows up, in the dating world, which is why I don't be on the maps no more. I was on the dating maps, but I don't be on them no more because I do have a public profile and I have a large internet footprint. And so when you Google me, and my name is unique, in that, well, if you're in Nigeria, it's not that unique.
Yeah,
but
in the
States, it is,
sure.
right? So in the States, it is. And fun fact, it's a unisex name. Anyway,
there you go.
But you can easily Google that, and people have all types of conclusions that they draw when they Google that. So when I was on the apps, I would just put E, right? And not trying to be secretive, but in that I'm just trying to protect the ways that people come to know about me, or come to know, so that people can actually get to know me for myself before they get to know what I do publicly. So I think that that's kind of where I find it to be a bit cumbersome. Let me say it that way. For me, I don't know. How about for you? Before and after.
Oh yeah, and again, it's cackle worthy. We're not famous. Maybe infamous. But but I mean, I like anonymity. I've never been a person who needed to be known when I walk into a space. I do need to be respected when I walk into a space.
Yes, that's important.
Be treated like that. Those are two different things.
Like,
treat me like you got some sense, right?
Yeah.
But I'm not a popularity has never been like my jam. And I remember that even as early as probably coming out of elementary school, all the way through high school. And I think in high school, I actually probably was known sort of like my crew of buddies. People knew who we were, but I think they may have known us as like the anti-popular girls. Like we just, it's like, I was like, I don't want to do that. I don't care. And I was sincere. Some people are kind of like haters because of like the reasons, but I've always been a person who's enjoyed like a small circle of very good friends.
Yes,
and I'm very serious
important
about who my friends are. And, I just don't necessarily need that. I do enjoy meeting people out and about and hearing their stories, like on a one-on-one level. I think that's the clinician in me as a psychologist. I enjoy hearing people's stories, and so I'm always open to receive that and to experience that. I think of that as a gift. But I think there was certainly a time when I felt like I could go, particularly in our circles of ministry, to particular spaces and just enjoy it as a person who got to show up and attend the conference. I talk to people all the time. It's like, it's rare that I even get to go to a conference or kind of a
Just
major church event if I'm not speaking in some way, if I'm not serving in some way or even coordinating behind the scenes. Otherwise, I'm not present. I just I can't swing that in my schedule. So that's something that I enjoyed. I guess pre-truth table in that way. So what would you say are some of the misconceptions you think people have about you? Whether those are things that you have been told or whether those are things that you sense that have yet to be verified.
Yeah, conferences now represent, it's a great time, but it's work, right? So when we go, I'm in a different mode when I'm at a conference, although sometimes it's like, oh, okay, wait, I'm enjoying myself. Like we had a time at the EK Bailey.
Yeah,
I had a time.
Yeah,
so,
it's a fun conference.
That was great. But, and the other ones are great too, but I'm usually just flying in and out, because, to go and do what I've been, called and contracted to do, praise God. And then, and then moving on to the next thing. But, misconceptions about me. I think there's a lot of them. Some of that's strategic, truthfully. And some of it, is not, but I think because of the work that I do, particularly a lot of justice work, repertory justice work, human rights work, just serious work. You're dealing with spiritual strongholds, that have been all over this land and globe for centuries, so it's serious work. But I think that people probably think I'm more serious than I am. And listen, I am to be respected. And my work is very serious and it ought to be taken seriously, but I try personally not to take myself too seriously. And I think that's, I think there's a difference and there's a distinction between that and being able to, I love to laugh, and I absolutely love to laugh at myself because bit of a character. Okay, Christina. Even though the work that I do is serious, I try not to take myself too seriously, So I love to laugh. I do like to laugh at myself. I have enough self-awareness to know that I'm a character, that I can be a character, and I have my moments, a flair for the dramatics at times.
A flair.
I'm very, very clear on that. I know that, about myself. I'm Nigerian after all.
There really are cultural distinctions.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that everybody who's Nigerian acts a certain way, but there are cultural generalizations, not to be confused with stereotypes, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so there's that. I do think that, and I think because people, see my work and how, serious and heavy work that is. So they probably perceive me to be that way too. And so they'll probably see me as intimidating or unapproachable or, I think that sometimes that's a perception that people get if they haven't met me. I think they would get that, but they'll probably pick that up probably from my social media, but I'm actually pretty approachable and I'm actually a very warm person. And I'm an extrovert. So I do like when we are conferences, I am actually the one that would probably talk most, to people because I'll just,
I'll talk to people individually, but I won't talk to a crowd.
Yeah.
And I won't go out of my way to like meet someone I don't know. Like I believe in a natural meeting. It's very rare that I would be like, let me get introduced to blah, blah, blah. Like that's just, I'm like, if the Lord sees fit, they'll be just
right. Yeah. But I was in sales too. So
absolutely.
I'm naturally just going to go,
for sure. You lean in.
Yeah, I lean in. And I like meeting people. I like talking to people.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
So I'm extroverted, I would say, in that way. Gosh, I'm trying to think what else. So kind of seriousness, people thinking I'm intimidating or unapproachable. Also, I've heard that all my life. So, okay. So I'd imagine I'm probably even more intimidating now. Or perceived that way now, but I've heard that all my life. I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, I don't know. I think that people probably think I live a much more, glamorous or jet setting life. And I do be traveling. I'm not trying to act like I don't. but I'm much more down home than people think I am. I'm very much, but I understand that on my public pages, you're gonna see because you're just getting my work, So I don't put up a lot of personal anything having to do with intimate relationships or personal relationships. I don't put any of that on my pages, and that's because I have to protect myself and guard myself because they're stalkers, and that's just a reality. So some of these misperceptions are false, but some of them are correct because there's a way that I show up intentionally because I have to put up some safeguards, around my life, and that's just the reality, of at least where I am right now, in my life. So I don't know. That's what I'm thinking. But I want to hear from you, Christina, on some misperceptions that people have about you. But we're going to hear about these after the break. So take some time to think about it.
Suspense.
So don't go nowhere, y'all. Keep it locked and we'll be right back. It's been 1 year since A Just Mission by Mekdes Haddis came out. And its message is just as important today as it was 1 year ago. Mekdes, an Ethiopian American mission practitioner, weaves together theology and stories from diaspora groups to show how white supremacy infiltrates Western missions and disrupts grassroots missions and local leadership development. Truth Table listeners can save 30% off A Just Mission when you use promo code TRUTH23. That's promo code TRUTH23 to save 30% off when you order A Just Mission from ivpress.com. And we are back at the table talking about who we really are. Who are we really?
My. Do you know?
Do you really know? Do you know where you're going through?
Do you like the things that life is showing you? Where are you going to?
That's the question. I mean, Diana,
Listen.
Mahogany is my jam.
Yes.
Asking the questions.
And if you have not watched that movie, come on now. Come on. We're losing recipes.
We are. I'm concerned.
Rabbit trail. Go ahead.
Anyway. Yes. Christina, what are some misconceptions, misperceptions, maybe things that even people have said to you, because they think they know you?
I mean, I've had somebody say, I remember a couple of folks at different times have said to me that they were surprised. And this could have just been them. This could be a sample size of 2 people. I'm not saying that this is a research study or this, is an accurate analysis. But I had a couple of people say to me that they were surprised that I was as warm as I am. And I actually think I am a reasonably warm person. Now, I'm not. Now, to your point, I think that's one of our differences in terms of introvert and extrovert. Is that I'm not going to, kind of go out of my way unless literally the Lord says, like, I feel like this spiritual impulse, like you need to go talk to this person. Like it's a burden, which rarely doesn't happen. I don't have an instant line to the Lord like that. Okay. But when I do talk to people, I talk deeply to people. Like if I'm talking to somebody, I feel like I know who I'm learning really deeply who I'm talking to. So I don't, and some introverts and just also just my particular personality type, don't like small talk, they would consider that to be almost like superficial, which is necessary for initial connection. Yeah. But I tend to have, I think, kind of deeper, richer conversations with less people. In a different context. But so I've gotten that. I've gotten like, I'm surprised that you were so warm. And I'm like, okay.
Right.
Because obviously I'm cold or whatever. I don't know. I have one of the ones that always tickles me is that when people discover that I'm married and I talk on Truth Table about being married and being a mom and, I don't talk about it as a brand. And this is no shade at people who,
brand their marriages,
who have who that's their thing. I just think that it's, and I don't consider myself superstitious, but it's like when people are like, hey, would you ever go on a reality show about your marriage? No, never. Now that's also the person in me who has a master's degree in marriage and family therapy. Like I just would never do that. Like I just don't think it's wise. With that being said, many people have. God bless you. There's no prohibition against such. it's just not what I would do, right?
Yeah.
I think our pictures are out there. I think that, you know, we chat every once in a while. My husband and I, we used to chat like on Twitter. He would post something and I would respond, and I'm like, where are you at in the house? Like I would respond like using it like a text message.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody would have an epiphany of like, oh, his name is Edmondson. Your name is Edmondson. Do you know each other? Are you? I was like, we've been married for over 2 decades.
Very long time, y'all.
So that part is funny.
Up, y'all.
That's fun.
Keep
That's
up.
funny to me. Micah usually will say something like, that's because they just can't believe that you would be with me. I'm like, oh Lord, that's not that. No. But yeah. Anyway, I think that's something that I think probably surprises people. Misconceptions. I don't know if I lean in enough to notice or if they've completely cost. Now, I do know that there are people who, because of the nature of the work that I do, which is on the nose anti-racism. I mean, I've been in the world of social sciences since coming out of undergrad. So, you know, well over 20 years. And so I know that the sociological positions that I take and the way that they're integrated with faith and theology across a host of traditions, that is, it's off-putting because it's convicting.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that doesn't mean that I couldn't have in my own flesh shed something that was offensive to someone, but I just know the topic that I talk about.
Right.
Talking about the evils and wickedness of human domination, of oppression, of systemic injustice, the ways in which we have hundreds of years of people perverting the Christian faith in order to subjugate others. Just saying what I just said out loud makes people uncomfortable because they don't want to reckon with that. Mm-hmm. They don't want to repent. Mm-hmm. And so there's a part where I don't think it's a misconception of who I am. I think it's something they don't like. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I'm actually comfortable with knowing that someone doesn't like me. Now, with that being said, the scripture reminds us, and I think it's Romans, about how we ought to live at peace with people. So we can't live as much as it depends on us. Mm-hmm. Now, that's about what you choose to do and how you carry yourself. We're not to intentionally agitate people, right? Or to pick fights with people. If someone sets themselves up as my philosophical enemy and then makes a caricature out of me, then I can't control that. Mm-hmm. And that's for them to sort out with God and not for me to sort out. Right. So I don't have an expectation. Woe to you when all men speak well of you. I don't have an expectation that everyone will speak well of me if what I'm saying is convictionally upsets some system of injustice. And as a matter of fact, being liked by everybody, we have kind of a bit of a warning against that. Yeah. Because sometimes that requires you have to being complicit. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So with that being said, I mean, I would love to have a reputation of kindness and warmth and thoughtfulness and all that kind of stuff. But I actually am okay if people who are committed to evil are like, I don't like her. I'm like, good. I'm glad you don't. Right. And please don't touch me or come near my house. But I'm comfortable with having a philosophical enemy if that enemy is committed to injustice.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear that. Yeah. I think, I often say either love me or hate me. And I think, some of it is that just comes with the territory of being a truth teller, and doing the work of particularly justice type work. That's prophetic work, and prophets can't be on the payroll. And so, that truth gonna land, and sometimes it's gonna land on. Oftentimes, it ought to land on those who are doing the work of iniquity, and that are doing the oppressing and all of those things. Calling them obviously into faith and into repentance, into repair and reparations.
Yeah, which is a grace.
But you're gonna have some. I know there's so many people, like from many, many years ago, that have written whole campaigns and all types of stuff, against me, against us, collectively too, and that's just comes, with the territory. But my thing is always, okay, is what I'm doing in alignment with what, with the gospel and with God's word? Mm-hmm. And am I following am I led by the Spirit? Am mm-hmm. I making sure, that I'm led by His Spirit? Because mm-hmm. I really don't subscribe to hater theology. Your hate is going to hate. I really don't. I'm just like, why? Why do I What? I mean, I don't think that we should just have haters. I mean, like how are you living? Like, you know what I mean? Like, why are you accumulating?
Make your haters mad.
Why are you accumulating so many haters? Like, you know, like, is this a character thing, or is this tied to your actual calling and your platform and what you do? And are you afflicting the comfortable and comforting the afflicted? You know, that's what I mean. You know, because like that type of, you know, fallout or dissension or beef, hateration, whatever, that falls from that is categorically different than you being mean-spirited, unkind.
That's right.
Haughty, and just downright unkind and mean.
Yeah.
That's completely different.
Yeah. Well, and also unable to retract. I do think I do think there's something wrong when particularly people who deal in words. So if you are, you know, professor, philosopher, preacher, you know, kind of these social media brand type people, when you deal in words, scripture tells us that where words are many, sin is near.
Yeah, for sure.
And there is a sense of self-control and discipline in not always, you know, always speaking. When you literally have a mic in your face, there's a great temptation to speak.
Oh, for sure.
And it is inevitable that people who are wrestling against sin are going to say something that's wrong or something that's sinful, or say it out of even if they say something right, they'll say it with the wrong motives.
Yes.
Because God cares about what we do and why we do what we do. So it's, you know, it's kind of God is calling us to kind of a thorough holiness beyond just performative Christianity, but a heart change. And I do think that we don't hear enough. And even for myself, you know, this is a challenge to all of us who have mics in our faces. There needs to be some more, you know what? When I said that then, or when I said it this way,
that was not right, or that was wrong.
Yeah. And there were implications to that, right? So I think that's just a part of maturity, and also what it means to be a good steward of having whatever size platform, whether you're influencing 5 people or 500,000 or more people with what you're saying. The other thing, when you talk about kind of hater theology, I was thinking about just the ways that negativity is attractive to people. Yeah. You know, and drama and gossip and negativity literally can give the brain a buzz. It's like a high. And so there's a sense in which even with Truth Table, we could go to town having a show that was all about saying things that are true, but acting like there's no positive element of that is true. Sometimes people are like, I'm a truth teller. And when you say that, some people feel like that means that I only say things that are negative that no one wants to hear. But being a truth teller would also mean that you say things
the whole truth,
that are good
and
pure and virtuous
and praiseworthy.
Praiseworthy. Think on these things, right? And so I do think that there's that's lucrative. Yeah. It is lucrative to, and also it's intoxicating, that negativity, to just sit down, hunker down, and like, let's create a space, not where we reflect back our pain and we lament together, but where we just spend all our time just speaking negatively, even if it's true, but that's all we do.
Yeah. And we made some real, and it's just not really, that's not even how we are anyway, period. But we could make a whole lot of money if that was the route we wanted to go. You know, but we want to honor God.
Or only saying things that were positive. Yeah.
And when we want to honor people, you know, we know that people can change. We believe that people can change.
You have to
believe the
gospel.
You got to leave some room for
transformation. Absolutely.
Yeah, you got to leave some room for grace, you know, over people's lives. You know, what about, so when you think about, you know, misperceptions and whatnot, are there things that you feel are some of these misperceptions about you restrictive in any ways? Have you seen it? You know, has it been restrictive to you in any way?
Well, first of all, as a person who knows that I'm on banned list for different organizations, particularly Christian organizations, I mean, I know that because I'm connected enough to know that. That's the other thing that also tickles me is that this is a lesson I learned very early in my life, is that you don't know who knows who. Yep. And the way that you treat people can't be about connection or power. It has to be about your own personal ethics, like how you treat others says something about you. But because I do have these interesting connections that I don't know how they came to be, I tend to know, you know, what has been said, or whatever,
mm-hmm.
right? Not like in a gossipy way, but like I'm just well aware.
Yeah.
And we've talked about it before about whether it's conferences or different spaces. I've never asked to speak anywhere.
Mm-mm.
I'm just, and I don't knock people who pitch themselves that way. And I think people should. I mean, I think there are people who have ways of kind of putting themselves out there as a part of how they give out their message and how they pay their bills. And there's no hate in that. I totally get
Nothing
that.
wrong with that, but yeah.
But because of what I talk about, I don't offer what I talk about to people. Like, you got to come get me. You got to come get me. So, and because, if I'm in a space where you haven't really listened to what I'm saying, then I know that you can't even take care of me well in that space. Mm-hmm. And I've had the experience of people saying, hey, can you come and speak? Our team is ready. Our organization is ready. Our university is ready. And I'll talk to them. I'm like, okay. And then I go and say something that I've said. There's like 400 hours of me saying or whatever, that very thing. And then people become quite fragile when there are consequences for those things, right? Mm-hmm. And so we both know this very well. Mm-hmm. And so that is that's unfortunate. That has never hurt my feelings. Like, I don't need people to like, I know that what I'm saying is inconsistent with the status quo. So I expect for people to be frustrated, or particularly around issues of racial injustice. And usually that's the one, even more so than gender dynamics. That's the one. The conversation around racial injustice in the U.S., it puts people have a tizzy.
White supremacy, it's a stronghold.
Yeah, it's a drug. It's a strong narcotic. And I think if you just call it out in the most basic of ways, that God is not pleased with a racial hierarchy and what people do to uphold it, people just start getting weird. And all that to say is that I just expect, and again, reflecting on that text, woe to you when everyone speaks well of you. Like, I don't actually want people to feel comfortable enough with me to say things that are racist and unkind and unloving, like while I'm standing there. A little bit of, and I wouldn't say intimidation, but I would say a little bit of respect of my humanity and my work. I value when people have enough of that they are careful about what they say. Because we should be careful about our words. We should be thoughtful about what we say, as we grow in maturity to other people. And I think we can be truthful people and also still be really wise with our language.
Yeah, for sure. I think for me, when I think about misconceptions and how it hasn't been restrictive, in my life, and I would say, I'm probably on a lot of different levels. Of course, I'm banned. I mean, in places that's not surprising, because of, the work that I have done, the work that I do, and whatnot. I mean, you can Google and see all how that went down. I'm just not going to relitigate that stuff because it's so far behind, years ago. But I would say that there's can be a lack of curiosity, about me,
for sure,
which I find to be, I find that actually to be offensive.
Yeah, it's dehumanizing.
I don't like that. I do not like because people think that they know you and you don't know me. I contain multitudes, and I am absolutely complicated, I guess, like everybody else.
All the people are
like
super
all the people.
Complicated.
But I just think that there's this lack of curiosity.
What's a cheat sheet? People we could be quite lazy when it comes to experience. That's the function that stereotypes have, right?
Right.
So it's a cheat sheet.
Yeah. So I think that's something that's I just think that's offensive. And I think that's the effrontery. Yeah. And I'm big on respect, right? So that's a big core issue. Like I don't play around with disrespect. That's one thing. If you wanna see me flip to the other side, disrespect me, you're gonna find out well,
disrespect is actually for some people it's dangerous. For some, I mean, like, it's not respecting or seeing someone's personhood. For some people,
can be
that
connected
means
to their livelihood.
That puts them in a very vulnerable state.
Absolutely. So for me, like a lack of curiosity. And my life is far from boring. So there's a whole lot. There's a whole lot to explore, a whole lot of questions to be asked in order to get to know. Someone, and that for me has been, I think for me I find that to be very restrictive. Because they think, well, I've been following you all these years. I've heard you on over 100 True Stable podcasts. I've heard you pray on getting the word. I've heard there's a lot in there. There's a lot of data out there.
Yeah.
There's definitely a lot of data
Yeah.
out there, but that is one aspect, of me that's public facing.
Yeah.
But I'm completely different. I'm not trying to say I'm a completely different person. Like those are real. Who I am out there, that is real. That's one aspect of me. But there's a lot more to be learned or to be gained by actually being curious and learning me on my own terms, which is exactly what I talked about therapists about. I just feel like I cannot, I want people to get to know me on my own terms. Like that for me, that's what comes up for me. Exactly. That's what he said. That's what he said. In dating. But I was like, but because I have this public facing persona, it's a little bit different from somebody that doesn't. You know what I'm saying? Because they can, they come to their conclusions and they think whatever. Yeah. But for me, this is where a lot of it shows up. It is in the dating world for me.
Are there any, as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking this question for myself now as I'm reflecting, but I'll ask it to you first is, are there any regrets? In other words, if you had a magic wand, there is a sense, some folks are they have the brand is like, I said what I said and I meant what I said. And I actually think that I think there's a place for that if those convictions line up with, like God's character. But otherwise, I'm like, I said what I said then, but I don't know. Maybe I should have said it different, or maybe I could have, whatever. I do think there's a sense in which we do have some agency over what we put out there in the world about who we are. Now, we don't know what people are going to take and run with or amplify that part of it. But I'm just curious, as you sit back and think about, there are some drawbacks to a public presence, or people thinking they know you or know what you're going to say or how you're going to be. What pieces of that would you have wanted to change about what you put forward in your own story or in your own presentation?
Yeah, honestly, when I look back on all of my, my years of, public ministry in the different iterations, because, they've gone through different iterations. Right. I think I stand by the things that I've said, to be quite honest, the things I've done, because I'm like, I didn't lie. And I didn't even speak unkindly about the ways that I've approached anyway, my ministry. I think that even with my socials, I had to, when things were kind of getting, I guess when my platform was starting to expand more, that's when I learned, I was like, okay, I have to really guard, my family, guard personal stuff, and that's why, my public facing account is just strictly on works related things, so people won't see family on my account. Like that. And so I guess, so I think that if I had not made those shifts, then I probably would have regretted that, because I don't ever want to put anybody else in, whom I care about and who I love in harm's way, or they didn't ask for that. They didn't ask for all of that. I think even the things I put in the Truth Table book, I don't regret any of that. That that's my story, and I'm not the person that's usually, I ain't got no regrets. I just really don't. I think that the way that I've approached my public ministry, I think I've really have approached it prayerfully. Yeah. Before I take engagements, I pray about taking the engagements. I pray, not to say I can't miss God because I prayed, but I pray about them. I pray about what to pass on, even when I have TV hits and different stations try to hit me up on particular topics. I'm like, that's not what I do. Right. So go talk to this person.
A no is just as holy as a yes.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, no, I don't want to speak to that. Like, that's not the person, and I do not want to be in conversation with that individual. I want no association with that person. So I try to be very, I'm very boundaried, on what I try, anyway, on what I do. So I honestly, I can't really think of that. I don't. Yeah, and I just don't think I put myself out, and I guess it's a blessing and a curse in that way. I don't really put out my the behind the scenes of who I am. Let's call it that. Yeah, out there. So I guess it is kind of my own. I guess I have to live with that. Like I just have to live with that choice, to do that. For me, I don't think it's a wise thing for me to do that. Yeah, for me, but it could be rooted in. Well, it's obviously rooted in some fear. You probably couldn't say I'm in that, but yeah, this world's crazy. No, it's 2023. This world is not safe.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I don't know. I don't really feel like I have any real regrets about that. But I do understand that the way that I put myself in the world, I kind of have to live with, I guess, the consequences of that, which is kind of make people's lack of curiosity, people's misperceptions, and, oh, well, the right person will break through it. That.
Yeah.
I mean, the right people, the Lord will still bring the right people,
yeah,
to come in. And God has, right? Our intercessory prayer group. I mean, hello. There's one particular person in that group that we knew through social media. There was one person. So the Lord brings the right people, to be in your village, but might take a little bit more time or a little bit more work, maybe. But yeah. How about you? You have any?
I mean,
regrets?
That's a question that I, likewise, I would at different stages ask God to help me answer that question. Because I don't know if I have enough. I'm too biased to answer that question about myself. Right. And so I think my default response is like, I feel good about largely what I put out there in the world. I mean, I'm an organizational person, and what I say by that, like, I'm an institutional person, is that I don't think of myself as a free agent who just speaks for myself.
Right. Yeah.
I just do not function that way. There are consequences and implications of what we say. We're tied to families. We're tied to communities. We're tied to, and someone might be like, that's just too much burden. I'm like, well, it is what it is. Whether it's a burden or not, I'm an institutional representative, just full stop. And so that shapes the way I communicate, because I do function, and also as a clinician, do no harm. And that includes how we speak, when we speak, and why we speak. Yeah. So all of those things are on the table. With that being said, I don't have this insight at this point to say if there are pieces that I regret, or I would have amplified more, or I would have pulled away from more. Right. I feel at peace is what I would say. With what
you can sleep at night.
Yeah, with what I put out in the world. And I pray that the Lord takes the words that we say, whether it's podcasts or presentations, or the words that we even let marinate for a while, we hold back and then use more strategically, that God would bless them. And that they would actually do people well and not harm. And that they would be things that in 10, 20, 30 years from now, I could look back on and feel a sense of peace still about those things. Yeah.
I mean, I will say for that, I was thinking back, I did do a lecture a couple of years ago. More than a couple of years ago. Time's going now.
Because the COVID years are in there. Several years ago.
About would Jesus retweet you? And in that, I do remember lifting up, a tweet that I was like, I shouldn't have tweeted that out. That was wrong. I apologize, repent, and all that. And of course, there's just so many episodes. So I'm not to say there's nothing I've said. I just don't have at least the data that's salient in my mind.
Yeah.
So I have no problem, admitting when I'm wrong. I'll be wrong. But I do remember that particular lecture was about, what it means to kind of be a public figure. In my case, a public theologian, how you doing that type of work where you miss it. Speaking in ways that are integral and in alignment with, God's will and the gospel and, fruits of the spirit, type of thing. So I think it's a Truth Table classroom from years ago too. I think it became that. But anyway, all that to say that, that happens from time to time. But like at the moment, I just can't really think of that. But think of anything, beyond that.
Yeah.
It's just a different calling, so I think I think we're doing the best we can with what we got, in the words of Mariah Carey.
In the words of that great queen of wisdom.
It's a different path, it's a different path.
It is.
Yeah, but grateful for it nonetheless, but it's just different, right? And so you're just you're learning as you go.
That's right.
Because it really wasn't a blueprint for what we do.
Well, I hope people will listen in today and kind of think about how they're perceived and how they perceive others. And maybe in listening to our conversation, there's room for grace. Grace in our own self-perception, and also grace to let people define who they are for us.
Yes.
Instead of projecting that onto them.
That's right. So talk back to us, and thank y'all for taking a seat at the table with us.